everybody, I'm Tom Vassell.
I'm Mike Delisio.
And today we're taking a look at a game called Jisogi Anime Studio Tycoon. This is a game in which you are an anime studio tycoon.
Had you heard of tycoon games before, Tom?
Oh, sure. But they're video games. I played Zoo Tycoon. I played SimCity as a tycoon game, Roller Coaster Tycoon. It's one of my favorite genres.
Interesting. Yeah. So I had only heard it in the same context, usually through app-based video games. So I was curious to see how that was going to be translated into a board game.
I can tell you it's translated. It's a worker placement game.
Economic worker placement game.
All righty. Well, Mike's going to show us how it works, and we'll be right back.
In Jisogi Anime Studio Tycoon, players are running their own anime studio. So for example, you might be Spirits Animation. There are some other ones you can choose from here, but essentially they all work the same. What you're going to be doing is over the course of 4 rounds, you're going to be trying to gain the most reputation points, primarily through releasing anime. You're going to be doing that across 3 phases. You're going to have the production phase, the release phase, and the upkeep phase, and whoever has the most reputation points at the end of 4 rounds will be the winner. Talking about the production phase is the main phase of the game, and in that phase you're going to be doing worker placement on this shared board. Each player is going to start with 4 staff members. They are all what are known as dead inside. They are overworked and underpaid, and they all have a specialty. For example, this is the writer. Everyone's going to start with a dead inside writer, artist, producer, and director. And those different specialties are going to be relating to the different actions that are taken on the board. For example, this writer in the teal color can only take these 2 actions or the strategize action. The strategize action can be taken by any worker. The artist can go here and here, the producer can go here and here, and the director can go anywhere. They're kind of a wild. And so what you're going to be doing is taking these central core actions all in the purpose of releasing anime. So let's just talk briefly about the different actions you can take. When you're using your writer and you're primarily going to the research or the write action, what you're going to be doing is you're going to be looking at either 3 or 1 of these anime pieces and then gaining either 1 or 2 of them into your storage. So you need 3 different types of elements to have a completed anime. You need a setting, a plot, and a twist. So for example, if you went to this right area, you could reveal 1 from any of these types, setting, plot, or twist, add it to the pile there, and then you can choose 1 of them to put into your storage. So let's say I went ahead and took this one I just saw, this plot, I put it into my storage. You can have a maximum of 5 of these tiles in your storage, and at any time on your turn, you can move an element from your storage into your anime in production. But once it's placed here, it cannot be moved or removed until you release an anime. So either of these, you're doing essentially that same thing. With the artist, what you're doing is you're either going to outsource, which is just strictly going to give you money. Everyone starts with a certain amount of money, depending upon player order, but money is an extremely tight resource in this game, and outsourcing is one way that you can get some funds. The other thing you can do is animate, and this is where you are getting some art tokens that you would place in your animation storage here. Art is also an essential element to release an anime. You have to have at least 1 art token and all 3 of the elements to be able to release an anime. But if you look along the bottom of the board, there's a bit of a notation there to show you that you can't put 1 anime or 1 art token until you have at least 1 element. To put a second art token, you need 2. Once you have 3, you can add all the way up to a maximum of 6. So in this case, I could add that art token because I do have 1 element that is in there. So that is the artist actions. The producer's actions are either going to be networking. In this case, with the networking, you're just going to draw 2 of these networking cards, and they'll tell you kind of when you can use them. So this is telling you that when you do a research action, you could play this card to get some kind of a bonus. When you take the animate action, you can have this ability. These are one-time use. You just simply use them and discard them. And then the staffing is you have to spend 2 coins either way. This is where you can hire a new staff member, or you can promote a staff member who is already on your lineup there. This had been off camera, but just for the purposes of this overview, you're always going to have 4 staff members that are available for you to hire. And so if you're going to do the hiring action, you would just choose one of those staff members and you would add it to your lineup. You would then take one of the 2 action tokens that you have in reserve and place it on there. This is now an onboarding staff member. They wouldn't be able to take an action this turn, but it's going to give you some type of a boon. In this case, this is telling you that if you release an anime and you have this director in your staff, it's going to give you bonuses on different genres of anime that you might release. There are some others that will give you a better version of a particular action. In this case, this staff member gives you a benefit for writing and research, gives you a better kind of version of that. The other thing that you can do is you can promote. If you promote, instead of taking this and adding it to your lineup, you would place it right over the one you had before. And now this is not an onboarding staff member. You've promoted them. They actually can still go ahead and take an action, and they're going to have the benefits that come with the card. The other thing that anyone can do, any of these different workers, is can go to this strategize. And when you strategize, what you're going to do is you have to pay 2 coins, and you're going to choose one of these leverages. The first player to go here can choose any of them, and these are the 4 different leverages. You can get the first player marker and 4 coins. You can promote a staff member. You can get up to 6 hype. It's 6 hype minus the number of dead inside. So in this case, if you had 3 dead inside left, you would get 3 hype and place it in your board. Hype is going to help you gain more points when you release an anime. And then the other thing you can do is activate a merchandising deal. Throughout the game, you'll be getting these merchandise tokens. You get them every time you release an anime. There are some other ways as well. But now to activate it, you would place it at the bottom of your board, and this is going to give you some type of a boon during the upkeep phase. And the more of them that you place, the better the benefit that you will get during the upkeep phase of every round. That's the general idea behind placing out here for in the production phase. Then you would get to the release phase. And during the release phase, that's when players are going to have an opportunity to release their anime depending upon if they've gotten all the requirements. So let's say that, just for the sake of argument here, that I had done this, and I had done this, okay? So I had the 3 elements that I needed. I had, maybe let's say I had gotten 3 art tokens. Now during the release phase, I can release this anime. And what you're gonna do is you're going to come up with a popularity score for it. It's relatively easy to calculate. The first thing you do is you're going to choose one of the 3 trend cards, and you're going to choose the number of matches, genre matches, times the number of art that you have. So let's say in this case, I wanted to do this Prodigy pilot. I've got 2 matches there. I've got this match and I've got this match. So that is going to be 2 times 3 that I have in my art. That's a 6 base. Okay, then the other thing that I can do is I can add, if I'm the first one to do this type, I can add 4 to it. So that would be an extra 4, so 10. Then what you can do is if you have any Genki staff cards, which I do in this case, that could add to that, you can add those. Well, I'd be able to trigger both of those, so that would be an extra 6, which is 16, okay? And then any hype tokens, you can spend those 1 to 1. So let's say I spent these, I got to 19 there, and then, oh, I added that plus 4 already from taking the token. So I'd be at 19. In this case, that would be kind of a bummer because I just missed out on this 20 plus. But in this case, just for the purposes of showing you, 15 plus but not 20, you would get 5 coins and 4 reputation points, which you would mark there. The 5 coins you would just get from the supply and put them in there. And then you would have this anime that had been released. You are going to go ahead and remove this. You place it off to the side of your board because there are going to be some opportunity cards that you can trigger. I'll show you that in just 1 second, that it can give you some extra points. And then you would move on after that to the upkeep phase. One other quick thing to mention about Genki workers, which are those promoted workers, is that if you look on this board, they all are going to have some type of a bonus if you go there with a Genki worker specifically. So everything in this red box is a bonus you get if you go there with one of your promoted Genki workers. All right. So I mentioned quickly the opportunity cards. Let me just move things out of the way for the purposes of showing you this. You would also have this kind of lineup. You start the game with 3 of them here. You would check every time you've released an anime if you fulfill any of these. And if you had, you would be able to get the number of reputation points on it. Plus, if you're the first one, you'd be able to get the bonus as well. And then during the last phase where you're kind of doing more upkeep, these would just cycle down, you'd add a new one. This also acts as a timer for the game because at the end of 4 rounds, all of those are going to be completed. That's the general gist of the game. Let's head back up and we'll let you know what we think.
Alrighty. There's 2 things I think that are almost inarguable about this game. One is the artwork is phenomenal.
Whew. So good, so impressive, and they used different artists, and it's interesting. A lot of times when you have different artists that are doing art for a game, it doesn't have a unified feel, but that's not the case here, and I think there's a couple of reasons why, but yeah, just phenomenal art.
Yeah, it's a very strong look to the game. In particular, the trend cards are just phenomenal looking, and I get a big kick out of the starting cards. The dead inside people are just like, they're dead inside. I mean, essentially, the art is anime people. It's a game about being an anime studio, but you're also in an anime doing it too, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I don't have a huge background in anime. I'll state that right up front. I'm of course familiar with it, and I've played other games, both video games and board games, that has anime style art. And I'm hit and miss with it. I can tell you what games appeal to me, the art, and which ones don't. This is one where that anime style art does appeal to me. There's nothing in there that makes me kind of like squirmy or cringy. And that was a concern I had going in.
Oh yeah, good point. And yeah, and that's the other part about this I think is inarguable, is this game nails the theme.
Yes.
Like it or dislike it, this game, the where you put the workers matters. The art being the kind of genre people are looking for. The artists, the people giving things in, the hyping up a cartoon. I'm sorry, I called it a cartoon. Forgive me, everyone. Hyping up the anime. It all just really works well as a strong theme that your Dead to Me employees aren't as good as new ones, but of course you're paying them less money too. And I think it comes across really well. And my daughter, who loves anime, also agreed. She said that all the tropes that they picked for these anime was pretty good. Mike, did you mess with the alternate game mode of basically just making up stories?
I did not. To me, that's a completely different game based on what I read. You know, I just read through the rules, and that seems almost more like an RPG than a game to me, which I think is what they're going for.
It's just a storytelling game, but I was amused about it when I read the rules because I was like, oh, I was already doing that during the game. I was explaining how my anime worked each time I would publish one.
Yeah, I think that's something that you can just incorporate into the game organically, and that's something that I was doing several times throughout playing with different groups, and other people were doing it as well. They're kind of like filling in some of the little storylines based upon, but honestly, this system of getting the 3 parts of your kind of anime, it lends itself so well to that, and they all seem to fit together really well, no matter what the combinations. I've never really come across a combination that's just like, well, that makes 0 sense. There's always some way you can kind of find a nice little storyline, you know?
Well, it might make no sense if you're not an anime fan.
That's true.
I'm like, yeah, I think there actually is an anime about this. Now, gameplay-wise, Mike mentioned it's a worker placement game with an economic theme, and we need to mention the economic part because this game is tight. The loans in the game are not just a possibility. I think I have a hard time fathoming how anybody could make it through a game without taking out a minimum of a loan, a single one, and paying them off is excruciatingly difficult. In fact, in the rules they mentioned, hey, if you don't like loans, you don't need to raise the payback by one every time. And I was thinking, that's not the problem with my not liking loans.
Yes, you definitely need to know that going in. You need to know what type of game it is going in. That's the tycoon style games. That's kind of a hallmark of those is that, excuse me, you're going to have a tight economy and you're going to, really especially be starting from almost negative. And they do say for your first couple of games, don't start the game with a debt card. But the actual rules is that everyone starts with a debt card, and that kind of reinforces, I'm not doing it either, to be clear, but that reinforces this idea of you're starting the game as a studio that's ready to collapse. It's on its last legs, and you're just having to scrape out. And if that type of game doesn't appeal to you, I know there's a certain level or a certain type of economic games, Martin Wallace is known for many of them, where loans are a huge part of the game. That is the case here. I think it's unrealistic to expect to do well without taking loans, but I think the game is balanced in such a way that there's an expectation that you're going to take loans. And for some gamers, they're not going to go for that at all. So it's important you know.
I am one of those gamers. I really dislike taking loans. This one is a little bit more palatable because I'm like, well, everyone's doing it. Because that is the case. But the fact that the price on paying them back goes up by one every turn, I think that's a fiddly rule, first of all. But secondly, it almost feels like they're just trying to soul crush you on your way out. The other thing that I don't like the loans. I do like the actions. I think there's a wide swath of actions. The cards you can draw give you really fun things to do. Merchandising, or as we call it, selling out, is a fun way to make some money, but it takes some work to get to that point and who to hire and stuff. I do find, though, that there is, I feel, some strong luck to the game in when you're searching for the tiles to match the trends, because you really do want to match the trends. And sometimes you just don't draw that one purple tile you need. And so, but you spend a lot of effort to try to draw it.
I definitely understand what you're saying about anytime you're going to be drawing cards or tiles out of a blind stack, you're going to have some luck involved. What I think mitigates that a little bit is that, especially with the trend cards, one of the things I had as my pros in the game, pros and cons, is that the way it's set up where you've got the upcoming trend, the current trend, and then the declining trend, to me, it mitigates that a little bit because you always have a spread of cards and, you only really have to match one of the things with each of those cards to be able to make an anime. Clearly, you want more. So there is some luck of the draw, but I don't feel like it was enough that it really bothered me too much. And also, in one of those, when you're trying to get those tiles, one of those spots lets you look at, I think 5 of them. You only get to pick one. But so I do think that it's not a huge issue for me personally.
Well, this is where it comes in, though, in that regard, is that because the game is 4 rounds, you really should publish an anime every round, if possible. And if you just don't get the art or what have you, or that you just don't get the right thing that you need at a specific time, it's possible you cannot publish one and you might lose because of that. And this comes back to how tight the game is. Yeah. I think people who like heavier Euro games are really going to enjoy this because you can't fool around. You're making fun, thematic decisions, but you have to make the right decision every time.
Yeah, I definitely can agree with that. A couple of the things that we've mentioned were the cons that I have. So I'll talk, about a couple of those. Is that we had said these tycoon-style games can feel punishing. This game can feel punishing. It can feel punishing right out of the gate. And as you said, if you don't get an anime published that first round and other players do, that can feel punishing as well. The debt, you have to be okay with taking debt. And I also thought that those network cards, which are kind of one-time use cards that are usually tied into taking a particular action, not always, but usually, those could be pretty highly situational. And so there may be times where you're getting network cards that just really aren't fitting with the strategy that you're going for or the things that you need to be focusing on. And so that was a little bit of a downer for me. We've talked about just about all of the pros with the art and the theme and the mechanics being tied into the theme. I think that there are good player aids that are included in the game, and I think that that's important too. And the other kind of pro that we haven't mentioned is that, you know, turn order is very important in this game. It can be extremely important, and I think that it takes a game that could have otherwise been a little bit of a multiplayer solitaire game and makes it a bit more interactive than it could have been, because turn order can make such a big difference, mostly on bonuses. You know, you can have 2 players or 3 players, you know, kind of fulfilling the same type of anime, but the first one there is going to get the bonus, things along those lines.
Yeah, that again, I like a lot about this game. I especially how strong the thematic stuff is into it. And because of that, I'm shying on the side of enjoying it. It's a 7 out of 10. Definitely, it's not as high as it could be, and a lot of that is just the tightness and the debt. But I do get a kick out of upgrading my dead inside employees to really funny employees that, you know, they're in the game. I like explaining what my anime is and putting it out. It's one of the few games I played where I thought maybe it could have gone even another round, you know? So I can get some of that. But sometimes you just get an amazing anime out there and you're like, look at that. Everything's firing. I got the art up. It matches the trends. I put a bunch of hype behind this. All that feels really good. And so I think that carries it over the gate for me to something that I would say, get this. If you're like me and don't love debt, the theme overcomes that a bit. For me, it does anyway. Otherwise, if the theme doesn't do anything for you and you're not a big fan of debt, you won't want to play it. And if you don't care about theme at all, you probably like it because the game is a crunchy Euro-style game.
Yeah, I agree with what you're saying. And the thing is, it's a crunchy Euro game with a relatively simple rule set. It's not that hard to kind of understand. And as we were saying, the thematic ties-in makes it even better because what you're doing makes sense. You're putting an artist out to create art and things along those lines. So I'm a bit higher than you. I'm coming in at an 8. And it would be an 8.5, quite honestly, because the art is so great, the theme integration is so great, and I'm not even that into the theme. But the thing that keeps it from getting into the excellent for me is the tightness of the game. And I think that this is going to be a your mileage may vary thing. Sure. Because it is so tight and so punishing, and normally those types of games I shy away from. This one, it's mitigated by the fact that it's relatively quick. It's not a terribly long game. And the actions make sense and they're fun. And so that element kind of keeps me from minding too much about, okay, I'm going to have to take a loan here. I don't love that. You know, my money is so tight, that feeling that can be a little bit agonizing. It's kind of mitigated by the aspects of the game that kind of make it a little bit more light, whether it's the theming or the art or the fact that the rule set doesn't get in the way of all of that stuff. So an 8 for me.
Well, there you go, folks. Do you want to open your own anime studio? I'm not sure I want to after playing this game. It looks like a lot of work. But either way, definitely check it out. I'm Tom Vassell.
I'm Mike DeLisio.
And we want to say a quick thanks to some of our GameFound backers. Thank you to Board Game Animal, Justin Kelly, Harry, Kit, Knizia, and the crew. To Josh Picca, the 2-time Ticket to Ride champion in North Dakota. And Jason Damron. Thank you guys so much for supporting us. And thank you all for watching. We'll see you next time. This is the Dice Tower. Hey everybody, everybody, thanks for watching this video. If you like this review or whatever you just watched, wasn't it amazing? Check out our channel, Dice Tower. We have all kinds of things. We review games, we do top 10s, we play games live. It's all about board games, but especially the people who play them. Check out Dice Tower YouTube channel.